Hi, everybody. It's Leslie with the New Mexico Small Business Development Center, and I'm here with Eric Spellman. And he's going to be giving a live webinar on the Guru Guide to Succeeding in Paid Advertising on Facebook. I want to remind everyone that cybersecurity is very important to the New Mexico Small Business Development Center, and we encourage every small business in New Mexico to visit one of our upcoming cybersecurity webinars. We have 3 that we have just added. They are going to be with 3 different speakers, and Eric is going to be one of them. Eric's webinar on cybersecurity is going to be the 23rd. Let me give you the title: Top 10 Mistakes Hackers Want You to Make. So please visit our website and sign up for cybersecurity webinars going on in the next couple weeks. I'm going to turn it over to Eric. Remember, any questions, type it into the chat and into the Q&A, and he will answer them right away. Thanks.
Okay, well, hey, everybody. I'm glad to be back. This is one of my favorite topics because so many people think that, you can get all this free advertising on the internet. And when the internet started, it kind of was like that. I mean, you could show up in Google and people would go to your page, they would buy your stuff, and it would cost you $0. Well, as times have gotten tougher, or should I say, as the number of people have grown on the internet, it's been tougher for your business to be seen amongst everybody else. So let me just tell you, if you're a small business, you need to be in paid advertising, okay? Now, one of the best places to have paid advertising is on Facebook. And I'll be honest, of all the different paid advertising platforms out there, Facebook is my favorite. And the main reason is because of how deep you can go and how you can create your audiences really good. We'll get to that in a second. So let's just dive right into it. Basically, there are some things you need to know before we go down this path. Number one, Facebook has about almost 3 billion users at this point. It is the largest social media platform out there by far. So if you're trying to reach a large audience and reach the people in your town, your village, your city, this is the way to do it. Facebook is the platform to go after. They get about 25 billion ad clicks annually. Okay, so a lot of you see Facebook and you see those ads and you say, well, I never click on those. Yes, you do. And you'd be surprised how many people actually do. So I'm just here to tell you it works. I've done some very successful Facebook ad campaigns and I've actually done some that didn't do so well. And when I looked at why I didn't do so well, it's because I forgot some of these basics and I forgot some of the rules I'm about to tell you. I'm pretty excited to say that if the average user on Facebook, who buys paid advertising is getting about a 2% to 5% click-through rate. What that means is, out of 100 people, you're getting anywhere from 3 to 5 people, 2 to 5 people clicking on them. Okay, out of every 100. Now you're saying, well, Eric, that seems awfully low. No, not when you look at advertising. Not when you look at all other forms of advertising out there. That's actually a very good rate. And it's actually above the conversion rate, which is another way of saying it, for a lot of other advertising, like, snail mail, getting mail in your mailbox, simply because of how targeted we can go. You got to realize when you specifically go after very specific people, really narrow, laser targeting these people, they're more likely to click on your ad. So don't give me that no one clicks on ads. They definitely do. Before we start, you really need to understand the difference between personal accounts and pages. We're not talking about promoting your personal Facebook account, okay? Your business must have its own page, okay? A page is public. Your personal accounts, by default, are not. They're only going to be seen by your friends. So I'm not talking about throwing money at getting more people to be your friend. That's kind of sad and pathetic. But I'm talking about your business page. Okay. It's and you're saying, well, how do I know which one I have? It's very simple. When you go to where your business is, it should have a like button on it. If it's a personal account, it'll say add as friend. So that's how you really tell the difference. And also remember, Facebook does not allow you to use your personal account to do business with. If they catch you doing it, they will cancel your account. So don't really turn your personal account into a sales account. Facebook wants you to use that for, well, for personal stuff like pictures of your family and throwing out memes and arguing about politics. That's what your personal account is for, not your business page. So when you see me talking about ads, we're really talking about your business page. There's also a little something called the Facebook Pixel, and some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. It's one of the things that allows Facebook to extend beyond Facebook into your website. And you're saying, what do you mean? Facebook Pixel is a little bit of code that you give to your web designer, or if you're comfortable with it, you can do it. And you put it on every page of your website or on certain pages. So for instance, let's say that you buy something or you have a website that sells something and they can put in their credit card. So an e-commerce site. On the page it says, congratulations, your order, you've ordered this. On the success page for when someone orders, if you put the Facebook Pixel on that, Facebook will actually track if that person had come from Facebook. So if you have an ad on Facebook that was sending them to your website to buy something, when it gets to that success, they actually bought something page, that little pixel will report back to Facebook, and Facebook will know who that was. Now, some of y'all are saying, oh, that's creepy, Eric. I don't want Facebook to know who all my customers are. No, this is very valuable because now with your Facebook ads, you now have a new audience. And in the future, you can say, I want to send this ad to everyone who's bought something from me before, or everyone who's bought this product, or everyone who's looked at this product on my website. So I'm a big fan of the Facebook Pixel because it kind of brings it all full circle. Let's jump. So here's the process when you're going to do an ad, when you're actually going to pay Facebook. Before I do this, I want to throw one more thing out there. Whenever I talk about this subject, I always have people say, Eric, I would not pay for an ad. I don't click on ads, so therefore I don't think they work. I'm not going to pay Facebook any money to put an ad out there because who clicks on ads? You would happily pay money to get a lead. You would happily pay money to get someone who might buy something on your site. I mean, it's kind of like if I came up to you, the business owner, and I said, hey, I've got a friend who wants to buy exactly what you sell. They're looking for exactly what you sell, but they don't know who you are. I will introduce you to that friend if you give me $1. Now, I can't guarantee they'll actually buy what you sell, but what I can guarantee is they're looking for what you sell. Now, would you pay me that $1 just for the opportunity to meet that person? Of course. Of course. Think of it as a referral fee. You know what I'm saying? Or the chance. That's exactly what this is. You're simply paying Facebook to get the right people to wherever you're wanting them to go, to hopefully either generate a lead or generate a sale. So yes, you will do ads. And if you're a small business and not doing ads, I guarantee your competitors are, and you're already losing customers. So the way it works is you log into the ad manager. Facebook has a whole program called the ad manager on its website. And you get there by going to, say, your page, and you'll see the word promote. On your business page, you will see a button that says promote, and that's an easy way to get over there. There's other ways to get there, but that's one of the easiest ways. Then you're going to choose a daily budget, and I'm going to be talking about each one of these. You're going to be choosing a daily budget. In other words, hey, Facebook, I don't want to spend any more than this every single day. Then you're going to choose your payment action. In other words, what are you going to pay for? What are you going to pay Facebook for? Are you going to pay for clicks? People who click on the ads, views, how many people saw it, how many people liked something, or are you going to pay for downloads? So if you created an app, you could pay for downloads. And then you're going to build your audience. So you've kind of chosen how you're going to pay for it, what your daily budget is, and now you're going to build your audience. In other words, who are we trying to target? And this is very important. And it's where a lot of people make mistakes. And then finally, you're going to put in your pictures and your content to the ad. We call them creatives. And then you're going to get approved because Facebook has to approve it. So let's start with the ad manager. So like I said, the easiest way to get there is to click the promote button on your page, on your business page. You really won't see that. Most people will not see that on their personal page. So if you're not seeing that, it probably means you're not on a business page. So you're going to click promote, and then you got to choose your goal. When you click promote, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, so don't worry, you're going to have an option. Facebook's going to try to help you, and they're going to say, what is your goal? Are you looking for more web visitors? In other words, are you trying to get people to go from Facebook to your website, or from Facebook to a landing page? Now, if you don't know what a landing page is, it's nothing really out there. All it means is it's a page specifically designed to receive that click. It's on your website, but the only way to get to it is from those ads. And it's a great way of kind of double checking how many people actually visited it, because the only way they can get there is from Facebook. So that's what's called a landing page. It's designed specifically to receive people who come from that ad. You might also want to boost a post. That might be your goal. In other words, maybe you made a post about one of your products or services, and it was an amazing post, and you want to get it in front of more eyeballs. And that's what that means. You're going to be showing it to people who aren't necessarily people who've liked your post. Now keep in mind, the only way to hit all of the people who've liked your page is paid advertising. Now some of you are going, wait, what? Think of it this way. Let's say that your company page on Facebook has 1,000 likes. Think of it as 1,000 followers, okay? 1,000 people have clicked like on your page, which means you would think that they're going to see every post you put on there. And in fact, in the old days, that's how it was. In the old days, if you had 1,000 likes on your page or followers, then every time you posted, it would show up in their timeline. Well, then Facebook had an IPO. In other words, they sold stock. They went public, and all of a sudden they have investors, and these investors want to make money. So what Facebook did was they shrunk reach. Reach is how far something goes. In the old days, reach would have reached 1,000 people. Okay, not anymore. Based on our test, reach is only hitting about 1/5 of the people. So if you have 1,000 likes, that means every time you post to your page, it's only going out to about 200 people, even though other people have liked it. And some of y'all are going, well, that ain't fair. Well, Facebook wants to make money. The only way to reach all 1,000 people is with paid advertising. And the question I always get at this point is, well, Eric, how do you know, you said it only goes to 200. How does Facebook pick the 200? It's actually very interesting. What Facebook does is they look at the people who've interacted with your page the most. They will get it, okay? So if anyone has shared something from your page, they'll get it. If anyone has liked something or commented on something on your page, they'll get it, okay? And so just keep in mind, the only way to reach all those people is with paid advertising. You can also promote your page. In other words, maybe your goal is to drive people back to your Facebook page, okay? We talked about sending them to your website. We talked about getting your post in front of more eyeballs. And now we're talking about getting them back to your page. The goal at that point is really likes. You're trying to get more people to like your page. Promote locally simply means that you're a small business and you want to get in front of the eyeballs of everyone who lives around you. So if you're regional, in other words, you serve a town, a city, an area, then Facebook is going to help you reach those people for the primary reason of contacting you, for them calling you. Think of it as the yellow pages of Facebook, if you will, and it works quite well. Leads is exactly what it sounds like. Your goal is a lead. In other words, you want people to fill out a little form. And back in the old days of Facebook, the only way to do that was with a landing page on your website, capture that lead in the form. But now Facebook makes it even easier. So in this case, Facebook would create a little form. You actually create the content for it and say, hey, want more information about blah, 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 let us know. And so what happens is when someone fills out that little form on Facebook, and keep in mind, Facebook actually pre-fills it. I'm going to say that again. Facebook actually pre-fills the form because it already knows the person's name. And so you can ask for information, but Facebook already knows it. So it's going to save you even more time than if they went to your own website or landing page on your site. And the final one is messages. And think of it as a special form, but it has a contact us on it. And if they click contact, it's going to send you a direct message on Facebook. In other words, you'll get your lead through direct message, but the person can click on that button on your ad and ask you anything they want. It's a way to directly get a hold of you. I like that a lot. So kind of pick what goal you're trying to do, and then that's what you're going to choose. You'll see this in a minute. I'll show you. Next, you're going to choose a daily budget. In other words, how much, what is the maximum amount of money do you want Facebook to charge you per day? Because back in the old days, people worried that Facebook would just, if everyone clicked on your ads, it's like it's going to cost me $1 million today. So they put a limit on it. And so what happens is once you spend, let's say you do $5 a day. Once you spend $5 during that day with Facebook, all your ads drop off until tomorrow. Now, every once in a while, it may go a little higher, but a little lower, but it's going to average out to whatever you set for the month. So if you had, say, an average spend of $10 a day, and you said, Facebook, I don't want to spend more than $10, then there may be some days where you spend $12, but now there will also be some days you spend $8. And so the point is it averages out to whatever you decide. And that way you can pretty much just multiply that amount, times 30 to find out approximately what you're going to be spending per month. Okay, this is very controllable. And I know a lot of people who spend very little, but reach exactly who they want to get to. You've also got to understand the value of a lead. A lot of people say, I would never pay for a lead. Yes, you would. Okay. And one of the easy ways for me to help you with that is to realize what the value of a lead is. You need to figure out what the dollar value of a lead is. And here, I'll just go through the quick version. I've given this before and I've spent more time on it, but I'm going to give you the quick version. If you have the kind of business where you don't sell a product, maybe you sell a service, okay, then having someone call you, like a realtor, for example, okay? You can't put a house in a shopping cart and buy it. What a realtor website or what a realtor Facebook page wants is leads. People actually contacting them and saying, can you sell my house or help me buy a house? That's a lead. So what is the value of a lead? Well, the key is to figure out what your average sales price is. So let's say that the average price, the average amount of money that people spend with you is $10, okay? Or better yet, $100. The average amount of money someone spends with you is $100. Then you got to figure out, okay, how many people do I have calling in right now? So on a weekly basis, just out of the blue, leads, prospects, if you will. Just before I do this ad, how many people are actually just calling us out of the blue, asking what we do? Those would be leads, okay? And so let's say our average product price is $100. And let's say the average number of people who call us per week is 10 people. Okay. But here's the most important part when figuring out the value of a lead. What is the percentage chance that you will sell to them? In other words, if I put you face to face with them and they are a prospect, looking for what you sell, what's the percentage chance you're going to sell it to them? I'll just go easy and say 50%. In other words, 50% of the people who come in your office will buy what you sell. Okay. Now you already know that number. It could be different for everybody. So let's just say, for the ease of math, that 50% of the leads who come in actually buy something. So now we have some very interesting numbers. We get 10 interested people a week. Half of them will buy something. Okay. So if half of them buy something, and our average product price is $100. Well, if all 10 bought it, it would be $1,000. But only since 5 people buy it, that's only about $500. So then you simply divide that by the number of people who come in per week, and you now have the value of a lead. Each lead is worth $50. Does that make sense? I can't spend too much time on that, but just realize you've got to put a dollar amount on what a lead is worth to you, because that's going to help you justify these paid ads. Okay, so know how to measure the value of a lead. And then, like I said, a lot of it's based on your conversion rate, how many of those people you can convert from a looker to a buyer. You also have to look at what you're spending on other advertising. What are you spending on newspaper? Oh my God. What are you spending on TV, on billboards, on radio, on direct mail? What are you spending? You are spending money if you're a small business. So like I said, gone are the days of basically just using free advertising on the internet. You're going to spend. And I'm here to tell you, and some of you aren't going to like this when I tell you, if internet is not the largest dollar amount of your advertising, you're already behind. The internet is going to be the easiest way for you to reach new customers, period. And in my opinion, the largest piece of pie of your marketing budget should be going online. Not necessarily with Facebook, but online. Okay? Because in my opinion, you're going to get the largest return from that. Experiment. And that's kind of what these ads are about. You're going to see that some ads work better than other ads. Some ads you're going to get no response. Some ads it's going to be overwhelming. And you're going to slowly hone it down until you get the perfect advertising equation. And then you just run it day to day, and just money, cha-ching, 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 just start coming into your business, and leads too. So how does Facebook charge? We talked about a maximum budget. In other words, hey, Facebook, this is the most money I'm going to spend during the day. Cut it off. Well, how does Facebook charge? How does it start building up that number? There's a lot of different ways. The easiest way is called cost per click. Okay. In other words, if you choose this method, then people seeing your ad, it won't cost you anything. Cost you nothing. It won't cost you anything unless they click and do what you want them to do. In other words, either go to your website or go to your page or wherever that click is going to send them. Across all of Facebook ads right now, the average cost per click is about 97 cents. So about $1 per click. And some of y'all are still going, I would not pay $1 for a click. Yes, you would. I'm telling you, you just got to try this. It really does work. And if you choose cost per click, guess what? You're still going to have thousands of people seeing your ads, getting a little top of mind awareness, and you're not paying anything for that. You're only paying if they click. So we call that CPC. You ever see that abbreviation out there? The other way you can choose, and by the way, you get to pick which way you're going to do this. The other way you can choose is cost per impressions. Okay. Also shortened to CPM. That goes back to billboard days on that abbreviation, because I know that doesn't add up to what it says. but cost per 1,000 impressions. In other words, you can choose, you can say, you know what, I don't want to pay for a click. I want to pay for how many times people see my ad. And right now on Facebook, the average cost per 1,000 people seeing your ad is about $7.19. So for $7.19, what Facebook can do is guarantee that 1,000 people saw your ad, whether they clicked on it or not. That's actually an amazing rate, because you see, with billboards, you don't know how many people saw it. You don't know that they actually looked up and saw it, but on Facebook, we know, because Facebook knows if the ad went across their timeline. If the ad, as they're just scrolling through, Facebook knows whether they saw it or not. That's why I like this so much better than billboards. Another way you can choose is you can pay for a like on your page or a post or whatever. You can pay for a like. And right now, and most people use it for their Facebook pages, getting more people to like their page. The average cost of that is about $1.07 per like. Okay, so you only pay if someone likes your page or likes whatever it is you're trying to charge. The final one is cost per download. Now, this really only applies if you sell apps, like for phones. And so someone's actually going to go out there and download the app. So if you've created an app and you want to advertise it, but you only want to pay if someone actually downloaded and installed the app, then that's where that comes in. And the average cost on that is about $5.47 per download. So it makes it very easy to know what you're charging for. So you need to start thinking, what am I trying to get here? Am I wanting people to click on my ad? Am I wanting people to just see my ad? Am I wanting people to like my page, or am I wanting them to download an app, if you will? By the way, if there's any questions, please ask. Next, you're going to build an audience, and this is the most fun part. The key is to understand what we call personas. And this is kind of a marketing technique in that you need to think of your product, and you need to, and here, I'll just give you the instructions on how to do this. I want you to think of your product, and I want you to think of the kind of person that buys your product. What's their average age? Where do they live for the most part? How much do they make for the most part? What are their interests? And you're going to create this persona. And this is something you can do on paper, and I highly recommend you do. And products can have multiple personas. There'll be one persona who buys lawnmowers, one persona who buys crocheted pillows. There'll be another one who needs an accountant. You see what I'm saying? There can be multiple personas. A persona is like a fake person who represents that customer. So for instance, what I do when I'm coming up with personas for Facebook is I'll just pick one. And maybe what I sell is, I don't know, pillows with pictures of cats on them. And so this persona I will call Marge. Marge is my favorite persona, the favorite name for my personas. So I'm going to create Marge, and I'm going to say, okay, this is a person who has an interest in cats. This is a person who likes pictures of cats. This is a person who's probably over the age of 50. And that, you see what I'm saying? What I'm doing is I'm slowly describing Marge. And it's easier if you actually put a name on that persona, because then you start picturing in your head what they look like, and you can more narrow down that audience. So instead of thinking of a lot of people, now I just picture Marge. But Marge isn't the only one who buys cat pillows. There might be another persona who does, like a young pet lover, a single young pet lover, or a single young pet lover who has a cat. You see what I'm saying? Two personas, two different people, but they like the same product. So you can have multiple audiences here. So come up with your persona. You can also build an audience by location. In other words, you can say, I only want my ad to be seen by people within 50 miles of Amarillo, Texas, or 5 miles of Amarillo, Texas. it pretty much guarantees that no one outside is going to see your ad, because if what you sell is local, like a restaurant, your home-owned restaurant, well, you may want to extend as far out as people would drive to go to your restaurant. So maybe that's 5 or 10 miles, 50 miles, depends on how good that food is, right? And so you can limit it by location. Or what I've seen some businesses do is if you have stores in multiple locations, so maybe you have one store in Albuquerque, one in Santa Fe, one in Roswell, then you can say, I only want my ads to show up to people in those cities. And it will do that. And people in other cities will not see your ads. You can do it based on interest. Like I said earlier when I was talking about personas, you can say, I want people who are interested in cats. You know, and believe it or not, Facebook knows that. Facebook knows a lot about you that you don't realize because it puts 2 and 2 together. I'll get to that in a second. Just realize interest, okay, and hobbies, you know. You can do it based on relationships in Facebook. So you can actually send to everyone who has liked your page. You can send to everyone who is a friend of someone who has liked your page. You can send to everyone, you see what I'm saying? You can send to everyone who has just commented, or everyone who has is interested in your competitor's page. Did you know you can do that? You can actually put your ad in front of everyone who likes your competitor. I know that sounds sneaky, but also keep in mind when you're building your audience, and you need to know this, when you're building your audience by describing these personas to Facebook, you do not get to know who these people are for a privacy reason. I mean, imagine, what if I told Facebook I want everyone who buys a Mercedes or has a Mercedes? What if Facebook actually gave me their names and phone numbers and all that? What an abuse that would be. So while I'm building the audience, Facebook will tell me how many people are in the audience, but there's no way for me to go in there and see exactly who they are, okay? So it's kind of a privacy thing. So when Facebook advertises to those people, they will see the ad, but I don't get to know exactly who they are unless they tell me who they are. And then other demographics. This is the coolest thing of all. I mean, this is why Facebook beats everybody else in paid advertising, because Facebook actually knows all this stuff about you. I can say, I only want my ads to reach women between the ages of 36 and 42 who have a undergraduate degree in computer systems. You see what I'm saying? I can do that. Or I can say, I only want this ad to go to doctors, specifically, bone doctors, okay? And it will. And believe it or not, and this is going to freak some of you out, I could say, I want this ad to go to people who make over $100,000. Now, how in the world does Google know what you make? How does Google know what you get paid? Well, technically they don't. But what they do, and it's so cool and creepy at the same time, here's how they figure out how much you make. They look at your job title. They look at where you live, your actual address, because they know. They look at your friends. And they put all that data together, and believe it or not, they can basically get within $5,000 a year of what you make. And they can figure that out. And it's the coolest thing in the world. Once again, don't get freaked out by that. Remember, what have I been telling you this whole time? You haven't had privacy in a long time. It's over, okay? The concept of privacy is over. Get over yourself, okay? As an advertiser, you want to be able to reach people by that demographic. And how many of y'all have ever said, you know what, it's creepy because I did a search on this product the other day and now all of a sudden I'm seeing ads for that product. This is also how that works. Okay. And here's the deal. I would rather, if I'm going to get advertised to, I would rather be advertised about products I would actually buy than something I have no interest in. Does that make sense? So don't get creeped out. This isn't George Orwell 1984 kind of stuff. It's just targeted advertising. That's all it is. Okay. Some people are going, well, how does Facebook know all this about me? Because you told them. Well, why did I tell them? Because you were looking for friends on Facebook and Facebook asked you questions. What high school did you go to? What do you do? What are you interested in? What albums do you like? And over time, you answered those questions, which allowed Facebook to learn more about you. This is a good thing, people. Next, you're going to get your creatives. You're going to add some creatives. And what that means is pictures and the text in the ad itself. You're going to be creating the ad. Okay. When you choose pictures for your ad, make sure they will stop people in their tracks. We call them scroll stopping. You need scroll stopping pictures. Keep in mind, people are on their phones going through Facebook, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then you stop. And what catches your eye? What makes you stop scrolling on Facebook? A picture. Okay. So if you're going to do an ad, make sure you get a good picture. Also, in your ad, you're going to tell them what to do. Click here, do that. Get the discount. Don't be nice. We talked about that. Don't be polite. Never say please. Just tell them what to do. Once you do that, once you have the picture and you have the ad, then you got to get approval. In other words, Facebook has to approve your ad before it will go to everyone out there. Now, a lot of people ask me, Eric, how can I get disapproved? How can I fail the approval process? There's so many ways. The obvious ones are, of course, there. You use cuss words. Another one is if you discriminate. In other words, if you target a certain group or talk bad about a certain group. Another way is if you actually reach out to people and kind of let them know that you've targeted them. So for instance, if you said, are you 18 to 24? Knowing full well you targeted people 18 to 24. You can't do that. It's better to say, are you young? Okay. Facebook will disapprove it if you kind of leak how you're targeting. Do you live in 79109 zip code? No, you can't do that. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. So just be careful. And if you're unsure, go just Google, because there's like 80 different ways to get disapproved. And trust me, once you start this, at some point you'll get disapproved for something. It happens all the time. I mean, it can be weird stuff like your picture can't be a gun pointed at someone. It can't be anyone doing drugs or even vaping or smoking. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. Well, now we're going to have fun. This isn't just going to be a little PowerPoint presentation. We're actually going to go in and look at this stuff. So let's go take a look. And okay, get this. And here we go. So here we are on Facebook, and I just chose an old page I used to maintain that's no longer around, and this is called Ruby's Books, and she is an author. And what I wanted to show you was right here is the promote button I was telling you about. So what you're going to do is you're going to click that promote button, and this is where you get to choose exactly what you're going to be doing. Okay. By the way, is everyone seeing that? I want to make sure. Leslie, are y'all all seeing what I'm doing? I want to make sure y'all, I'm not.
I can see it.
Okay, good deal. I just want to make sure I'm not just talking and y'all are not seeing it. So Facebook tries to make it easy. And like I said before, this is where it starts. Now, Facebook ads for beginners can be tough. So the very first option is kind of like, I don't know what I want. And it's kind of like a little helper, and it'll guide you through the whole process. Okay. It'll hold your hand. But if you've done this before, then here's where you're going to choose get more visitors to your website, get your posts seen by more people than just who likes you. get more people back to your Facebook page, show up to all the people on Facebook in your area, get more leads, people filling out those forms on Facebook and you getting a notification, and then you can contact them. Or get more messages. In other words, encouraging people to send you Facebook messages. Okay. I know a lot of people who don't even have websites who are using Facebook totally for their business. And it works. It works really well. So I'm going to pick one. How about we choose get more website visitors? In other words, I want to get more people going to my website. So I click on that, and then it comes up and it says, okay, your ad creative. How do you want your ad to look? And so right here is where I'm going to write the text to my ad. Then I'm going to select the media, and I can do a short video, or I can just do a graphic and put that here. Then I'm going to put the URL where I want them to go. In other words, if they click on my ad, where do I want my website to go? Certain kinds of ads have certain rules, and that's what this is about. So don't worry about that right now. But here's the fun part. Here's the audience. And I'm about to come back here and we'll talk about this. Next is how long you want the ad to run. In other words, the first option is run this ad continuously. In other words, just keep running it till I tell you to stop. The other one is to say I only want it to run for, say, 5 days or whatever I tell it, and what date to end on. And then what is my daily budget? In other words, how much am I going to spend maximum? And look, you can up this and take it down. And when I'm going up and down, you're going to notice right here, it's going to tell me approximately how many people are going to be reached by it. So if I were to really spend $25 a day, it's telling me that about 2,000 to almost 6,000 people every day will be reached by my ads. Okay. And if I go up, remember this is a daily amount, or down. I recommend when you first start out, maybe start with at the $5 or $10 level. But if you're going to start with low numbers like that, let it run for a good week. I don't want you to like do one day and then go, ugh, nothing happened. Okay. So be willing to drop a little coin on this. So for, in this case, if I wanted to do $10 a day for 7 days, that'd be $70. And then you can decide whether you want it to show up on Instagram as well, or show up in ads on Messenger. It just gives you more options. And then how are you going to pay? It wants a credit card. And so then over here, based on all of that, it's going to give you a summary. So we're estimating that you're going to reach between 1,000 and 2,800 people based on the $10 a day for 5 days. And you're going to get about 41 to 120 clicks to your website. You see how it gives you these numbers. So you're kind of able to do the math and kind of figure it out. And it says your total budget is going to be about $50. So for $50, you're going to have about 41 to 120 people click through to your website. It's so easy. So let me go back up and we'll talk about the audience. Let's create an audience. So I'm going to click create new, and notice what it says. It comes up and it says, what do you want to give this audience a name? And so I might give it a name. I might call it older women who read romance novels. Okay, because that's kind of what Ruby did. She wrote romance novels. So then I can choose gender. I want everybody, just men or just women. I'll say just women. What age? Now, the people who read her novels are about, I would say they start in the 40s. So I'll say I want just women from 40 to above, 40 and above. Once again, some of y'all are probably asking me, how does Facebook know how old you are? Because you told it. You told it your birth date, and that's how it's matching you up with your friends from high school, okay? So the more you tell Facebook, the easier it is for Facebook to get the right kind of ads to you. Then the next thing it adds, the next thing it asks for are locations. Okay. Now it kind of knows where I am. I'm in Amarillo. So what do I want? So right now I can say Amarillo plus 10 miles. So a 10-mile radius around Amarillo is what it would do. Anyone within 10 miles of the center of Amarillo. You can type in more and you can add them. So for instance, I could add Lubbock, Texas, right here, the city. I can do it at a county level. And I can say I want 25 miles, see what I'm doing. I can extend the radius to whatever I want. Going down further, I can go into detailed targeting. Now, people, this is where you're going to have the most fun. This is where you're just going to spend all your time today. I guarantee it is in this detailed targeting. So right here, though, before I go into that, I want to show you the very bottom. It's showing you that the potential reach for this right now, it's not, you haven't spent enough money to reach that reach, but the potential reach is 120,000 people so far. And keep in mind, the only filters I put on here is Amarillo and Lubbock and women over the age of 40. So it's saying I'm going to reach around 120,000. I could, if I dropped enough money on it, I could reach up to 120,000 women over the age of 40 who live in those cities. So I'm going to go detailed targeting though. So I'm going to click browse. Oh, and this is the best part. You will love this part. It will creep you out, but be exciting at the same time. No other form of advertising can do what I'm about to show you. So notice I can choose demographics, interest, behaviors, and then there's more categories. So demographics is where I can really dive in. So for instance, education. I drop that down and I can say education level, or I can say what school they went to. That's right. I could say, I only want this to target women who went to Amarillo High School. I could do that. Or here on education level, look, I can say people who got an associate degree, who graduated college, who graduated high school, who's in high school. Now, once again, when I'm doing this, I don't get to see who it is. I don't get to see a list of names, okay? That's for privacy, but it's a way to narrow things down. So maybe I want this to go to women who are over 40 and graduated college, okay? So I chose that. So I can keep going down. Let me shut that one down now. And I'm going to choose financial. Here's where I can choose how much they make. So on the income level, take a look. Household income is in the top 10% of zip codes, 10 to 25%. Top, you see what I'm saying? I can go in there and say, I only want to target rich people. Okay, you can do that. And you can base it on zip codes too. You can really tie it in. Another one you can do is life events. Like people who are not close to their family. In other words, who don't live close to their family. That's right, Facebook knows that. I can target birthdays, people that don't live in their hometown. People who are in a long distance relationship. Look at this. People who are in a new relationship. People who've been brand new engaged for only 6 months. People who are newlyweds. People who've recently moved. I can do this. Okay, people who just got a new job. I can even say people, look at this, how crazy this gets. I want to target people who are friends of, and look at all these options. Friends of women with a birthday in 7 to 30 days. Are you following me on this? This is amazing. The demographics are off the chart, what you can do. And I can keep going deeper. Let's talk about parents. I can choose, okay, what parents do I want to reach? New parents, parents who just had a kid, parents with adult children, parents with teenagers. I can go down and say relationship status. you know? Be my favorite relationship status in the entire world on Facebook is complicated. I love that. I love it when I see someone with that. Okay. Anyway, I could say people are in a relationship, people who are married. You know, you can choose people who are widows, people who are single. On work, I can say, I want people in the construction industry, people in this or that. I can do people who have very specific titles, you know, like the CFO, the CEO, you know, a paleontologist. I mean, I can even say, look at this on employers. I could type in actual companies like Amazon. Okay. And I can say basically that's people who work at Amazon. I can target my ad to just people who work at a certain company. Now, believe it or not, it might even have some of the companies in your town. It just depends if there's enough people out there who've claimed they work there. But you can say, I want to target people who work at a certain company. Um, I want to target, and like I said, I'm just going to keep going. You can go with veterans, transportation and moving, and job titles. Let's see. Let's close some of this down. Dink. Because I'm telling you, this gets lots, and this gets so fun. Okay. Relationship status, close that down. Work, close that down. Okay. So you can see there's a whole bunch on here, but see, that's just what? Demographic. Okay. So now look, when I did that, it now says they've got to be a college grad. I can go back and say, you know what? I'm going to click on interest. And this is where you can say where people are interested in something. It's not that that's what their job is. It's that they like that because they talk about it on Facebook, or they're a member of a group on Facebook that likes that. Behaviors. This is crazy. Okay. I can go after people who have certain political views. Okay. I can go after people who use Android phones. I can go after people who, based on where they live or where they like to buy products. I can choose, let's see, more categories. Interested in upcoming events. I mean, it's crazy what you can go after. If I go to more categories, like I said, I can just start typing things in. And that's probably the easiest way to do this is just by typing things in, then going through all these drop-down menus. So once you finish getting your target. So in this case, okay, I've got my audience built and it tells me how many I'm going to reach. And once you've built your ad, then it's just a matter of launching it. Okay. And what you're going to discover is once you do that, then you're going to measure it. Okay. And it'll even tell you how many people you're reaching, how much you're spending on an average basis. You got to remember they work. Paid ads work if your ads are good. And that takes a little promise or a little time to get done. The key is to narrow your audience is fun. I would rather you narrow it to a very small number, but that be exactly who you're trying to reach. We're not doing the shotgun approach like a billboard where we shoot everybody hoping someone was interested. No, what we're doing is we're narrowing our focus, laser focusing in women from 40 and up, women who like romance novels, that would be an interest. Women who, you see what I'm saying? You know, maybe single women, you know, I don't know. It's based on who your demographic is. Facebook allows you to do that. Write good copy, which means write good ads. Tell them what to do. Get them excited just based on the ad, and then measure your results. Because remember what I said, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. Questions?
Did have a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to revisit that.
I'm not seeing it. Hold on.
Okay,
Hold on.
let me.
There it is. There it is.
Okay.
Okay. Our service, this is from Don. Our service-based business is linked to several local pages that allow people to chat. Keep it local pages. How can we maximize usage of these sites? Well, if you're talking about reaching out to people just in your area, then that's where you would choose location. And you could say, I want people within 5 miles of this city, and 5 miles of this city, and 5 miles of this city. You see what I'm saying? And that's the easiest way to do it. It makes it very easy. And it looks like you saw that anyway. So let's see what else. What other questions are there? Okay.
I was really interested in the fact that you could target your competitors. That was interesting. I'm going to have to play. And every time I'm on a webinar with you, I'm frantically on
I
my
know. I'm telling you, and the way you target your competitors is by you say people who work at this company, or you can say people who have liked a page. That's the easiest way to target your competitors, is by saying people who have liked their Facebook page, okay, and their friends.
I hope everyone heard that, because that's great advice. I think that's really a key, so you can kind of see how your paid advertising is going. I want to update everyone. If they want to type a question in the Q&A, go ahead. I do want to update everyone real quick on what's coming up. We have Intellectual Property Pirates Part 1 and Part 2. We have Eric back. Is your digital presence illegal? Probably. We also have e-commerce and alternative selling methods, basic steps to starting a business in New Mexico, outmaneuver cyber criminals. We have financial resources in a bilingual session. And then Eric, again, one more time, your most important online stat you cannot ignore. Really want to know what that is, because we had a couple technical difficulties. So I keep asking Eric, are you gonna tell us? I want to know. And that,
I think people are ready to see that one.
I'm ready to see that one. And all the ones that I just listed are all coming up next week. So if you don't have any questions, Eric, if you want to give us some last words of wisdom, then we'll just wrap it up.
I say try it. Give it a decent try. Run it a week, drop $10 a day on it. And if you write good ad, I promise you're going to see a result.
So that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to check out nmsbdc.org. You guys have a great day. Bye.